Picture this. October 1967. 100,000 Americans gather at the Pentagon with the stated goal of making a building fly. Not through engineering, not through physics, through vibes, man. The hippies, the poets, the bearded philosophers of perpetual protest had decided that if they concentrated really, really hard, maybe chanted a little, burned some sage, summoned the cosmic forces of anti-establishment fury, they could lift the entire Pentagon into the air and shake out all the war demons like pocket change. Allen Ginsberg showed up. The Fugs brought their guitars. Thousands of idealistic 20-somethings brought their good intentions and questionable understanding of gravity. The government's response? Total fucking panic. They deployed more troops than some actual wars. Federal marshals, barbed wire. The full might of the American security apparatus mobilized against what exactly? A poetry reading with delusions of architectural telekinesis. This is where it gets beautiful in its absurdity. The Pentagon, this monument to military might, this concrete manifestation of American imperial power, was so terrified of a bunch of kids trying to make it float that they turned Washington into a police state for the weekend. See, here's what the suits in their climate-controlled offices understood that we've somehow forgotten. Power is performance. Every dictator, every general, every bureaucrat with a badge and a pension knows that authority only works if people take it seriously. The moment someone starts laughing at power, really genuinely mocking it, the whole game falls apart. The hippies weren't just protesting the war. They were committing something far more dangerous: ridicule. They were treating the most powerful military in human history like a haunted house that needed an exorcism. And the government knew this was dangerous. Not because they thought the building would actually levitate, though given the quality of intelligence we've seen from these people over the decades, who knows? But because they understood that once people stop being afraid of you, once they start seeing you as a joke, you're finished. The 1960s represented something we can barely imagine today: a coherent opposition, not a hashtag campaign. Not a trending topic. An actual, organized, sustained challenge to the fundamental assumptions of American power. The anti-war movement connected to the civil rights movement, connected to the feminist movement, connected to the labor movement. It was intersectional before that became a corporate buzzword and a right-wing boogeyman. These people showed up. In person, regularly, they got beaten, arrested, surveilled, and infiltrated. And they kept coming back. Social media promised to democratize resistance. Instead, it turned us into data points. Sure, you can organize a protest on Facebook. The algorithm will make sure only your friends see it. The NSA will catalog every participant. The local police will know exactly when and where you're meeting before you do. The 1960s activists had to actually meet each other. In basements, in coffee shops, in places where human connection happened without generating metadata for corporate surveillance networks. Revolutionary solidarity used to require showing up. Now it requires clicking attending on an event page while the FBI takes screenshots. The 1967 protesters faced soldiers with rifles. Scary but ultimately human-scale violence. Today's protesters face systems. Surveillance networks that can track your face through a crowd. Sound weapons that can burst your eardrums. Non-lethal. Weapons that can still permanently disable you. The cops have drones now. They have algorithmic predictive models. They have gear that makes them look like rejected Star Wars extras, and they're eager to use it. The 1960s left could rally around simple, clear demands. End the war. Stop racism. Give women equal rights. Try organizing around clear demands today. Half the country will insist the war you're protesting doesn't exist. The other half will argue about whether the war is good or bad based on which team proposed it. We can't even agree on basic facts anymore, let alone shared values. How do you build a movement when people can't agree on what reality is? COINTELPRO was amateur hour compared to what we're dealing with now. The FBI used to have to physically infiltrate groups, plant bugs, steam open letters. So analog. So inefficient. Now they just buy your data from Google. They don't need to infiltrate your organization. Your organization exists on platforms they can monitor in real time. They don't need to predict your behavior. The algorithm already knows what you're going to do before you do. They've automated paranoia, outsourced surveillance to corporations who do it better, cheaper, and with less legal oversight than any government agency ever could. Here's what the Pentagon levitation really represented: the last moment when American power could be genuinely surprised. The government's hysterical overreaction wasn't about protecting a building. It was about protecting the idea that government buildings can't be mocked, can't be challenged, can't be subjected to the indignity of having their demons exorcised by a bunch of poets with too much time and too little respect for authority. Today, that kind of surprise is impossible. Not because we're less creative or less angry, though we might be both, but because the system has evolved. It's learned to absorb and neutralize dissent before it can develop into anything genuinely threatening. Every protest gets permitted, contained, surveilled, and ultimately ignored. The state doesn't need to crush resistance anymore. It just needs to manage it. The hippies thought they could levitate the Pentagon through collective will and cosmic energy. Turns out the Pentagon levitated itself, right out of reach of any earthbound resistance we might manage to organize. They feared our levitation then. Now they've grounded us all.